Coming up on today's Unscripted Faith, we're going to be joined by the one and only Kyle Speller, the voice of the Denver Nuggets and their team chaplain. Hear how faith, family, and purpose has shaped his life and his work.
Yes, can't wait. And that's not all. This week, we have a new segment we're doing called the Happy Home Survival Guide. I'll be joined by host of the Happy Home podcast, Arlene Pellicane. We're talking about the impact of technology on our kids' brains, souls, and family life. How much is too much? You'll find out as Unscripted Faith starts right now. Here we go!
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you again for bringing us into your world. We are so excited to have everybody here on Unscripted Faith.
Yes, we are. Listen, we're going to get to hear that voice, that growl that gets us excited in the stadium.
We are honored to have who we're about to have, y'all. It is going to be off the chain. He's a friend of mine, but he's now, listen, this guy here, I've known him for quite a while, you know, and I've known probably close to 20 years.
Come on.
And how to see how God has just taken him through the ranks is outstanding. So, with no further ado, he is known as the voice of the Denver Nuggets. Pastor Kyle Speller is not only the first African-American public address announcer in the team's history, but he's also, in all of Colorado's major professional sports, he's the first African-American as well. Kyle is also the team chaplain for the Denver Nuggets. He's an associate pastor, he's a counselor, he's a teacher, and a community leader who's deeply committed to his faith and family. Get ready to hear how he's built a life of purpose, passion, and service. Pastor Kyle, my buddy, it's good to have you with us on Unscripted Faith.
Thank you so much for having me, and God bless you all. And it's just an honor to be here on this platform, and I'm excited. Oh yeah, ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Unscripted Faith, baby. Let's go.
Yes,
see, man, you took my thunder. You took my thunder. I was going to ask you, now I'm going to ask you to do it again, actually. All right, I want you to do something off the cuff. You didn't know I was going to do this. My name's Jay Gilbert, Angela Madden. We're from Pittsburgh. This is Unscripted Faith. The network is Cornerstone Television Network. It airs every day, Monday through Friday. Give us, if you had to do an introduction for us coming in, how would it go for Pastor Kyle?
Angela Madden?
Yes.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, everybody up on your feet, no one sitting in your seat, and make some noise for Pastor Jay Gilbert and Angela Madden. Let's go!
I love that. I want that to be the announcement when I get out of bed in the morning. Hey, world, get ready.
She would get up with that, too.
I sure
would. She would get up just like that. Well, listen, man, it is such an honor to have you. Thank you for being a great guest already. And tell us a little bit about your story. I mean, obviously, you're the announcer for the Denver Nuggets. You've done the NBA All-Star Weekend for several different years, I believe. And but how did you get started on your journey to Christ and to where you are today?
Journey to Christ, long story short, I gave my life I asked Jesus to be my Lord and Savior, June 29th, 1991. There was an individual I was a part of a youth choir, and it was a ministry that really just changed my life. And I went home that day and asked Jesus to be my Lord and Savior, and I hadn't looked back since. And if you knew me on June 28th, 1991, and between that and June 29th, 1991, you know that God is real, because there's a total different person there. The journey to this role that I have now, this assignment that I have now as public address announcer, the thing I share with people all the time is the importance of being faithful with the little things, because you never know when those little things become big things. That's in Matthew regarding the talents. But for me, I traveled around the state of Colorado. I played on a prison ministry basketball team. And so I tell people I honed my skills in prison. And so, but in the prisons, we had a prison ministry basketball team. We would go we played every prison here in the state. And just before the game, just something in my heart just said, just do the player introductions. And little did I know, God was preparing me doing that little instruction, being faithful with that little thing, that was ultimately my training ground for what I get to do today. And so that's the kind of the short version of it. But God is awesome. But yeah, be faithful with those little things. You just never know what God is doing.
Wow. Well, what directed you towards prison ministry? And in that, how were you found by the Denver Nuggets?
Yes, and so at our church, yeah, I played basketball. I played all the way high school, college as well. And after my official playing days were over, our church had started just a prison ministry basketball team. We have prison ministry as well, but it was another opportunity to be able to connect with the inmates. And so yeah, we put together a schedule, and we had it was an annual thing, and we would just play year after year, and it was like a 21 game schedule just going around the state. And so that was that particular assignment at that point in time. And then just one day, the Nuggets had an open call, an open audition, and for me, I had been doing it in my head for years. But the assignment was, if you were the public address announcer, how would you do the player introductions and to submit it? And so for me, I literally went into a studio. It took me 5 minutes to record my audition, and we put it on a CD at that time. No one uses CDs any longer, but sent it in. And a few weeks later, they reached out to me. They had received thousands of auditions, and they said mine was the only one that they liked. And then they brought me in. My first assignment was to go down to the United States Air Force Academy. We had our blue and white scrimmage there, and they tried me out there. And then our first preseason home game was against the New Orleans Hornets at the time. And they had me announce that game, and I found out after the game, got the job. And I've been there. This is now my 20th season.
Now, what y'all don't know, check this out. And Pastor Kyle, you may not even know this. Back in 2011, February 5th, I believe it was, I had just talked to my wife the first time, okay? And you got me tickets to the Denver Nuggets game while I was talking to my wife, my bride-to-be, and I was there with Pastor Alvin, who's his pastor, that I was there with. And I don't know if you know that, but that's the weekend I first met my wife ever.
Let's go.
Wow.
So just a little fun fact for everybody in your homes.
Yes.
No, but let's fast forward. Well, go ahead.
I just said praise God.
Yeah, that was just so cool. I just thought about that.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
But now you're doing the public service announcement and all that stuff for our dresser for the Nuggets. How did it open the door to become the chaplain?
So my second season there was a chaplain in place. His name was Bo Mitchell. And I knew who he was. I knew him. He was one of my supporters. I was on staff with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes right out of college. And so he was one of my supporters back then. And I just found out he was a chaplain. And I just asked him, hey, is it okay if I come and just sit in on the chapel time? I was just wanting to come in and just, sit in on the chapels and do it like that. Well, I didn't know that's where you say God is always working. What God was doing in his life was kind of transitioning him, preparing him to transition that role. And he had been looking for someone, but he wanted to kind of see with when it came to me, would I be faithful with it? Would I, would I mismanage it in any kind of way? Would I be trustworthy or whatever? Sure. And I didn't know that he was considering me for that. I was just wanting to come in and sit on the chapels. And so then, a few months later, he asked me, hey, would you want to ever share at one? And I said, oh, sure, I'll share. Sure, absolutely. And then, more and more, he began to give me more and more responsibilities. He would show up less and less. And ultimately, he was just testing me out and kind of going from there. And then about a year or so after that, he finally transitioned it to me, and I've just been in that role ever since. And in the chaplain role, it's totally, it's a service unto the Lord. For us, it's not a paid position or anything along those lines. It's just totally just being in position. So every time I walk into the arena, my prayer is always, Lord, just use me as you see fit. Don't allow the people to hear me or see me. Please allow them to hear you and see you in everything that I do and say. And so my role as a chaplain, I kind of see that our arena as that's our sanctuary, and so whoever is in the arena, whether it's the ushers, it's the people that are security behind in the stairwells in the arena, in the back areas that no one gets to see, I'm there for all of those individuals, coaches, players, or whatever it is. Just be in position to, as Pastor Alvin would say, to get the job done. And so that's been my role the entire time. So this is my 18th season as as a chaplain.
Wow. I mean, that's beautiful that you are there for everyone, from the usher to the professional coach. But you have a very unique calling because you are dealing with high-level competitors who have very public lives and also very private struggles. What are some of the things that you see that you're having to help them navigate in life that really strikes a chord in you?
So for me, the thing that you see is the same thing that you see in every man. These young men are individuals. Yes, they have resources, and yes, they have celebrity and fame and all of that, but they are human, just like each and every one of us. Not to mention that the majority of them are young men that are still coming into their own, and so they're facing all sorts of different issues. Obviously, there's the pressures and the temptations that are out there that individuals with that status would face. That's the everyday stuff. But there's also, the personal areas. There's guys there's family men, there's guys that are fathers, that are husbands, that are, it just runs the gamut. Everything that we face, you can magnify it though, because it's exponentially magnified because of who they are. And so just kind of help them walk through that process, help them know that God's not mad at them when they have whatever type of slip ups, that there's nothing that they'll ever do that will separate them from the love of Jesus Christ, and just pouring Christ into them. And the term that we use is practical holiness. Practical holiness. How do we walk it out on a day-to-day basis? How do we walk out travels? How do we walk out the hotel situation? How do we walk it out on a daily basis? And so that's what I get to be a part of in that capacity.
What does that look like as a chaplain? Obviously, I know that you do services and things along that line. Is it just something that you're available for them? They kind of get your number for those that may be looking for ministry personally, but I bet you also probably officiate services. Sometimes I've heard they'll do baptisms for their children or whatever it is that's needed. What roles do you fulfill in that capacity?
Exactly what you said, whatever is needed. And what we have prior to every game, we have a chapel service, and it's just like a 15-minute service, a 15-minute nugget. But it's prior to every game. And the thing that's unique about the NBA is that the NBA chapel services, it's both teams combined. And so it's players from both teams that we are able to meet with, where the NFL, you just focus on that team. Same thing, MLB and NHL. You just focus on your team. But in the NBA, we get to invite both teams. So I've been able to cultivate relationships, all throughout the league and in that space, and minister to guys. There's guys, we communicate via text messages that aren't even on our team. They're on other teams as well, and it's just it's an ongoing process. But it's really being in position and doing whatever is needed. Guys have my number. If I gotta make a run and go be there to help, support, whatever, I'm there.
Wow. Now, let me ask you, because you do wear many hats. I mean, chaplain, PA announcer, teacher, in the community. In all of your doing, what is your number one passion and angle for the people you serve?
Number one passion for me is to love on them with the love of Jesus Christ. I just want to be an example of Christ in a person's life, and to really just try to make an impact. And My number one passion is I don't ever want to serve the people. Yeah, I wear a lot of hats. As you can see, I've worn a lot of hats and wore all my hair off. But I don't want to be more outside of the home than in my own personal home as well, my own personal home. And so I want to be, I've got to be, I'm a pastor at my house first. And so I try to live by example as well. And the thing is, when I'm sharing, if you ever hear me share, it's always it's an authentic way where the greatest ministry for me is stuff that I've been through, or things that I've experienced, or what God has shown me, or things that I've learned, or whatever. And then I always just try to, like I said, just try to be an example. I may be the only Bible that people read, or whatever, however it goes. But when people interact with me, my prayer is that they get a touch from Jesus, and if you will, that's kind of the best way I can describe it. It's just when they interact with me, preferably they've interacted with the Christ in me. Amen. Yeah, that's kind of the best way.
Pascal, I got about 30 seconds left. I know you're going to have to condense it. Give me your number one most miraculous God story with an NBA player. You don't have to mention their name, but just whatever your number one God story. You're like, wow, this blew my mind.
Oh, one player, I won't mention names, but just walking through the process of his cancer situation and how God healed him, God restored him, and God provided a lineage for him through that as well in a miraculous way. And I'll just kind of leave it there. But
that's awesome.
One of my best friends to this day, and through a lot of that ordeal and helping just be a conduit throughout that entire time.
That is so awesome, man. Well, listen, what people have to realize is that NBA players, NFL players, they're men or ladies in professional sports. Yeah. They're men and women just like we are, and they need Jesus just as much. Thank you so much, brother. So love you and appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing. I look forward to hearing your voice on TNT real soon.
Hey, God bless you. Give him heaven. Give him heaven. Yeah.
Oh, what an awesome conversation. Stay with us. After the break is our Happy Home Survival Guide segment. You'll hear my insightful conversation with Arlene Pellicane on how much technology is too much for your kids. This is a must-see segment for every parent. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
We left the light on for you. Cornerstone Network is your home for Christian television. A place of rest. A beacon of truth. Your source of encouragement and entertainment. Welcome home.
Want a happier home? Author, speaker, and host of the Happy Home podcast, Arlene Pellicane, is here with us all week to share practical tips to help your household thrive with our Happy Home Survival Guide. Arlene, it's great to have you with us today.
Let us survive in our happy homes. Let's do this thing.
Yes, let's do it. Now, Arlene, one of the biggest buttons in this day and age is technology. Share with us some pros and cons of technology and how it impacts our home.
Yeah, so the pros are, these are pretty cool tools, whether it's GPS, whether it's FaceTiming grandma who lives 10 states away from you. This is a pretty neat thing. You could even use it for spiritual activities. You could read your Bible on it. You could listen to a Christian podcast. Your kid could be doing great things. They could. But you take the average child, say, oh, child of mine, what are you doing on that iPad, on that phone? They're not like, oh, I'm talking to grandma, or I'm like reading the Bible. So what we need to understand is, okay, this has the possibility for good things. That's what I would call a digital vegetable. But just like in real life, kids don't just like eat vegetables all the time. There's a ton of digital candy that is addictive, that takes your kids' attention. And we really have to be careful because it is really wired to get the kids' attention and ours and keep it, whether it is a game, it is YouTube, it is relentless. And if we don't have a plan for it, it will have a plan for us.
Oh, I like that. If we don't have a plan for it, it will have a plan for us. So help us to create a plan. What are some boundaries that you set up to help monitor that screen time?
Yes, the biggest thing I can tell you if you have littles is delay is the way. Can I have a cell phone, Mom? No, one more year. Can I play this game? We're just going to hold off on that. So if you're in that stage where you can delay, so we made a decision really early on with our kids. We wanted them to not be addicted to their phones. We wanted them to love life and have hobbies and look at people and have social skills, all those things. So we decided no social media, no video games, no phones, all the way through high school. So that is what I call the platinum plan. I know that is the crazy plan. So if you're called the mean mom, you can be like, no, that Miss Arlene, she was even meaner. But so delay, and we're just here to tell you can at least delay until 10th grade so that your child can develop real life social skills.
So tell us a little bit, because I think that is a really good plan. And I know that's what I want to do with my kids, but I also know that social pressure is there, right, for these kids.
Yes.
What is it that happens if we give our kids technology too soon? What happens to our brains?
Yeah, so this is a huge thing because the brain you have as a child, that's what you get as an adult. You have a lot of stress. Because let's say you're gaming, then it's like, oh, fight or flight, go, move, move, move. And that once in a while is fine. But if constantly, every day, the body thinks, I'm in trouble, there's a lot of stress now in your child. And then think of it when in the normal life, you'd be really running away from someone, but you're just sitting stock still. So all that has to go somewhere. So that's why you see your kid like, why are you enraged right now? Why are you so moody? Why are you so depressed? Because their body is holding all this stress. You have so much dopamine, right? So dopamine is a good pleasure hormone that lets you go like, oh, ice cream, I like it. But when you play a video game, when you get the social media dump of likes, your dopamine is way, way up. And what comes up must come down. And then the normal, ordinary things of life, reading a book, watching a sunset, going out with grandma, all of a sudden it's like, I don't want to do that. That doesn't give me the dopamine hit that my gaming does, that my social media likes do. So we have to be really careful. We're informing our child's brains of what to expect as normal and what they'll gravitate towards. And they're losing pathways of reading, of being silent, of being restored, talking to people in real life. It really is a very, very real big danger.
It really is. And you look at, even if you give like a toddler or a young child a device and then you take it away from them, you literally can watch their behavior change instantaneously. And so we were made to live in this moment here and now. Are there certain time restraints that you would recommend for viewing or being on devices?
Yeah, so they've been doing a study of 10,000 kids over 10 years. And these are the things that our parents would have told us. No more than 2 hours a day of fun media, of digital candy, exercise for 1 hour a day, and make sure your child is getting 9 hours or more of sleep. So a good night's sleep, get them exercising, and 2 hours or less. The average is, kids are on the 7 to 9 hours. And so in your home, if you can get closer to 2 hours, that's where you start. Maybe 2 hours is way too much and you're like, I would never do that. That's fine. So get closer to those parameters.
I love those parameters. I think they're so helpful. In our last moment together here, I know that one of the things that I've seen even are kids just having unmonitored, unsupervised tech time. Speak to us just for a moment of the dangers of that and what they're being exposed to and what's actually at their hand.
Yeah, the Wall Street Journal pretended to be a 13-year-old on TikTok, and they were served within an hour 500 videos about pornography, about drugs, about body image and dieting and anorexia and all these crazy things. So you need to realize that, oh, it might start all cute and with kittens and all that's nice, but it's not going to stay that way. So to understand that, and that's why delay is the way, because it is hard to every day monitor what is my child looking at. And then your child may not even be looking for it, but it's looking for your child. So to really give that message to our kids, it's not because we don't trust you. It is because we do not trust this technology and we think it's better for a later time in your life.
I love that delay is the way, and it really is, because we would never sit down and say, oh, here, try this drug. You know, but truly that is what we're doing, and not only giving them a drug, but giving them access to literally every evil thing in the world. Yeah. Arlene, we are so thankful for you and your wisdom with technology. Thank you for sharing some of those helpful tips with us today.
Thank you. You can start anywhere. Just start small. Get the dinner table back. You can do this.
Yes, you can do this. Listen, we are here all week with Arlene getting some of these good tips to help us not only survive, but also to thrive.
Well, we've had such a great time here. We had Pastor Kyle Speller from the Denver Nuggets, and then we had Arlene Pellicane's Platinum Plan going on right there. And, you know, I was thinking about, you think about sports with him and the creativity and people investing in it. You know, when we grew up, you had video games and all that, but you didn't have social media on your phone. You had to be in someone's house. You had to go in the living room. Most people didn't have 5 and 6 TVs. So a lot of kids were outside playing and doing sports and things like that. That has so shifted, and we have to balance that with our children today.
It's so important because it's good for our bodies. It's good for our brains. It's good for us to interact and engage with people like in a normal way. And you see a lack of it in kids. You know, I've observed even just in recent years, a lot of teenagers you'll go past and say hello to, they don't even know how to respond. I mean, you can't even get them to lift their head up.
Yeah. Well, you know, my kids, you know, they're all into my youngest. He's definitely into video games and things like that. And he's just like that. He'll be down there and I'll come to the room, I'll be like, turn it off. If you can't speak to me when I come into a room and all that, just shut it down. You done forgot what's really important.
Yes. I mean, if it hadn't been for Kyle being active, he would have never became the voice of the Nuggets, you know, if he hadn't been out playing the sport. And I think that sport, that being out in the neighborhood, running around on bicycles and stuff, that is so missing from childhood. And with it, they're missing so much development that's critical for their future.
And what I found out too with especially my youngest, he gets so much more creative when he's not on all those, that E-time, as they call it, that electronic time, you know. I think even 2 hours, that's probably a little more than what I would prefer. You know, I try to do our best to keep it around an hour, but it's such an easy babysitter. It's such a temptation for us as parents, because you give it to them, you're like, hey, I can focus on something for a little bit, but we can't allow our selfishness to rob our children of the ability to be creative.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point. Like, I find myself, I'm constantly sending emails and responding to text messages that I think it's really important in our family life that we put the phone down and say it can wait. It's not pressing. Back in the day, if they didn't show up at your door, they weren't getting answered until tomorrow. You know what I mean? That's right. Let's go back there.
So ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great show. We're so glad that you've tuned in. And listen, whether it's developing one day your gift to become a public service address announcer, whatever it might be, put away the E-time, press into your future.
Cornerstone Television wishes to thank all our faithful viewers whose consistent prayers and financial support have made this program possible.